Big shout out to you for making it through the hectic holiday season. This new year, get clean, quality, pregnancy nutrient support off your to-do list, including Ritual's best-selling Essential Prenatal Multivitamin, designed with 12 traceable key ingredients to support a healthy pregnancy. With big changes coming up, take the small steps now and start today with 30% off a 3-month supply at ritual.com/podcast. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. Hey there. Ritual here to give a big shout out to you for making it through the hectic holiday season. The magic of those family moments, that was you. And now there's new milestones to prep for in 2025. This new year, check clean, quality, pregnancy nutrient support off your to-do list with Ritual. We've done the research to create science-backed pregnancy support like our prenatal multivitamin, natal choline, and fertility support, all designed to be taken alongside each other. But don't just take our word for it. They're also third-party tested for microbes and heavy metals and Clean Label Project certified. So whether you're trying, thinking about trying, or already there, we don't have to tell you that prioritizing yourself can be the hardest part. That's why we're helping you get started today with 30% off a 3-month supply for a limited time at ritual.com/podcast. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
It's the Opperman Report. And now, here is investigator Ed Opperman.
Okay, welcome to the Opperman Report. I'm your host, Private Investigator Ed Opperman. You can find me at Opperman Investigations and Digital Forensic Consulting. If you reach out to me through my email, oppermaninvestigations@gmail.com. I have one of my favorite guests on there, Mike Parziale. He's been on here 100 times. I got to do maybe I'll do it tomorrow or this week, a whole marathon of just Mike Parziale. MJVictims.com. Expert on the Michael Jackson case, but also too, this guy's recommended so many guests over the years to me. He's got a YouTube channel too as well called MJ Victims, and his Twitter is also MJ Victims. And he's working on a series right now on his YouTube channel called Nocturnal Admissions. Great content he's sending us here today. He's got all this updated information on Wade Robeson and James Safechuck and new accusers and all kind of great stuff. Mr. Mike Parziale, are you there?
Yes, I am. Hi, Ed.
How you doing, bro? Hey, remind the audience, who is Mike Parziale?
Well, I say 2013, I had stumbled across an article about Wade Robson, and Wade Robson at that time, and he was accusing Michael Jackson, and the story intrigued me because of being a survivor myself of that type of abuse. I decided to look into it, and then I was essentially going on various, chat lines, going in articles and leaving comments. And it just shocked me the amount of just vitriol that, I received just for saying, hey, look, I support this guy. He seems, I understand where he's at. I'm wishing him all the best. And then it was so immediate and so much of it that I decided, this is ridiculous. Anyone that tries to support this person is literally going to get, destroyed. So I decided to put up a page on Facebook and do a support page for him. And then as I investigated more about the Michael Jackson case, I went in to look into other cases as well. And I decided to basically change it's basically the name is mjvictims.com, but it leads to that Facebook page, and just try to keep a record of this particular case and other cases and try to support the victims. It's been, now we're going on in, I want to say May, it will be our 12th year. And it's been, it's been a learning experience because it's educated me in a lot of different things that I might not have been so receptive to. I'm kind of, we're getting, at this point, it's getting to a point where this might come to a whole head, with the trial and stuff like that. But it's been a ride. I can tell you that.
No, I know exactly what you're talking about. You make a comment and then you have like 25 people passionate fans, you assume. But then we were just talking off the air, and you were saying about how the estate, they have the ability to manipulate things on Google and Wikipedia and stuff like that. And I've even experienced too. We didn't get a chance to talk about it off the air, where when you're in the middle of negotiations in a lawsuit, I've seen articles get taken down, okay, like during negotiations, as part of the negotiations, and Wikipedia entries get removed in the middle of the negotiations. So do you think it's just the naive, passionate fans, or do you think it is more of an organized, paid operation here to manipulate this story?
It's definitely both, but the reality is that, like, now the way X works is that it kind of gives you stories that you think you might like, depending on what you're posting and things like that. And a lot of it is, I've never seen so many just being spammed by Michael Jackson and people just, oh my God, Michael Jackson, he's so beautiful. I've never seen such a beautiful man. I'm not talking physically now. That's what they're talking about. Oh, I wish I could date him. Oh, I wish I could have been his girlfriend. Blah, blah. And you could tell that these accounts are not real. They're not organic. They started like a year ago. And I think what's happening is the MJ estate, and this is my opinion, are putting the full court press on because they know that this documentary that's being produced, that same guys that did the Bohemian Rhapsody, Freddie Mercury documentary, that they need to somehow push this idea and try to revitalize Michael Jackson in a different way. And the part of it, my personal belief is this whole, people going gaga over his Michael Jackson's, surgically enhanced looks, is because when that documentary comes out, they're going to be going through his whole life, and they're going to be showing a Michael Jackson from all the way from the Jackson 5 till his Thriller days to when he, right around 2005, 2007, when he really surgically altered his face. And that's not going to be an easy sell, because I remember, I want to say it was George Lucas, I think it was. He was asked about Michael Jackson and about maybe because he wanted to be in a movie or something that George Lucas was directing. It was either him or somebody. I have to think of him. I don't want to put George Lucas out there if it's not him, but he essentially said it would be almost impossible because the aesthetics of Michael Jackson after that surgery, you wouldn't be able to, your mind just wouldn't comprehend him playing a part. You know what I'm saying? It's just too jarring. And I think now what they're doing is they're basically, flooding X, and they're also doing with on Google, because what happens is people don't realize you can essentially put out articles from, you kind of have an article created and then get it boosted. So when you type his name in, say Michael Jackson allegations, there'll be articles defending him that will come to the top of the list. Yeah, and that's not uncommon. Yeah,
content on Twitter can totally be manipulated. I've had people on here that talk about how Roger Stone gets, he can get anybody like 500,000 followers, like in a short period of time. Yeah, and you can buy aged. You can go on Fiverr and buy aged Twitter accounts. They're available out there. You can buy, year, 2 years old with 400 or 500 followers already. That's out there. Hey, by the way, I was going to ask you too. Have you been following Paris Jackson?
I look at her account from time to time
on Instagram. I've
been looking at the news. I haven't on Instagram. No, I'll see an article that might come out, or I'll see some of the things they mention on X, but no, not on Instagram.
Very interesting Instagram account. Okay, she's very close friends with Elliot Mintz, who was the spokesperson for John Lennon when he got assassinated, and later on, it was Paris Hilton's private investment. Agent, promoter agent. And he was also the promoter agent, too, for Gina Rodriguez, who did all that stuff with the Tiger Woods case and Stormy Daniels and stuff. So he's around doing a lot of stuff. But she's full-blown witchcraft. She's doing full-blown witchcraft with her and her girlfriends on the beach, man, like burning sacrifices and candles and the whole...
God.
Oh, yeah, man. Right? Michael Jackson probably would have went nuts if he saw that.
Yeah, it's very dark.
Yeah, if he was still Jehovah's Witness toward the end, who knows? So as for today's
No, he actually, just so you know, he was not.
Oh, really?
He left the Jehovah's Witnesses, yes.
Yeah. Okay, so what's the update though on Wade, Robeson, and James Safechuck, the civil trial?
So the goal is right now they're going to try to get the civil trial, because they've been now given the green light to go to a civil trial,
Right.
to essentially, before the documentary comes out. Now, the documentary was supposed to come out, the big Michael Jackson estate-produced documentary was supposed to come out, I want to say, in April, but they now pushed it back to fall of 2025. So their goal is to maybe, if they can, get it out before that happens, because they know that will essentially, try to persuade possible jurors. And the one thing the estate's very good at doing is kind of whitewashing these allegations over the years. And they know that with a documentary like that, a lot of times people might see that and be, it might put an impression on people that they don't want. So that's their goal. Right now they're fighting to do that. They also fought to have evidence put in from the 93 allegations, the pictures that they took of Michael Jackson, in the description, but unfortunately that was barred. And the thought process was that they could corroborate that description because they were there at the same time, saw pretty much the same thing, so they could corroborate the description on his genitalia, right, which was, on the underside of his genitalia. So that's not an easy thing to guess. And unfortunately, the judge decided that not to let that particular information go in. But they're pushing through. And, people keep on saying, well, this is all about the money. I'm like, this has been going on for almost 12 years. Are you kidding me? This is not like easy money where you say, oh, yes, I'm just going to sue, and here you go, here's a bunch of money. They've been doing this for 12 years and, having losses, victories, losses, and scraping by, and now it's finally going to happen. And the reality is they can win and still not get money because they right, or still not get a lot of money because that's awarded by the judge or the jury. I mean, it's just unreal, the fact that now that this has been going on for so long. And I think, hopefully they prevail.
Interesting, too, the difference between the P. Diddy allegations, which everybody believes right away. You don't see these fanatical fans defending him, very rarely. And the P. Diddy lawsuits, too. There's like 100 of them against him. No one's attacking those people.
No, very few people. Everyone's on the bandwagon.
Yeah.
The thing is I tell people the reason that happens is because when you get these, there is a value to the Jackson name. Yeah. So when you talk about Michael Jackson, if you do a sort of, glowing review of Michael Jackson or you defend him or whatever, and you're on somebody, again, dealing really with social media, you will automatically get people watching that video because you're talking into an echo chamber, and he has 1 billion fans worldwide, and even if 1 or 2% of those are fanatical, that's a lot of people, a lot of eyes on the things you're producing and putting out there. So with Diddy, what the eyes are, the reason why that is going in the opposite direction is because that video that came out about, besides Diddy and all the rumors that have been around him for years, but the video that went out with him and Cassie, it's very hard for someone to defend that. And the other thing is there are so many people that are into these wild theories that in some ways think, oh, well, he's just like an Epstein. There's going to be videos, which there probably are. But the reality is that there's less information on him, less like really, really intense evidence on Diddy than there is Michael Jackson. And Michael Jackson, you bring it up, and I could bring the passionate Diddy hater that wants him in jail, and I could go on a video or whatever, and put a comment in and say, you know what? Yeah, we also need to think about Michael Jackson. They will have an about face that never happened. Yeah. He was framed. It's all nonsense. The FBI set him up and blah, 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 because there is a group of people that are aligned with others that are very influential. Like, the reality is, and I'm not really going to get into politics, but Donald Trump thinks Michael Jackson's innocent, so you get a lot of those people. Alex Jones thinks Michael, Jackson was, or people on his staff think that he was. People follow that. I mean, there's a lot of other influencers that realize that there is money to be made by going in that direction. It's sickening because they don't care about the cause. They care about their own self-interest.
It seems a lot of the Michael Jackson fans too. They're like a little bit off. They're a little mental illness there. They're a little wacky. You know what I mean?
To say the least.
Yeah, and I think he's the kind of guy too that he would pick out certain ones, I guess, and kind of encourage them. Like, oh, I can manipulate this and that over here. Couple of things though. Back to by the way, that's a quote from Podesta, from the Podesta emails, saying, "Don't worry, we have access to people with mental illness, and we'll send them in there for you." To go in there and disrupt things.
Why doesn't surprise me?
I know, right?
Why does that not surprise me?
It's called weaponized mental illness. They take people with mental illness and they weaponize them. But moving back
wonderful.
to Diddy quickly, okay? Did you watch the video with Jonathan Odie?
Jonathan Odie? No, I did not. Who's Jonathan Odie?
I'm gonna send it to you, bro. You're gonna love it. It's this guy. He was a sex worker, a dancer. That Diddy would hire to have sex with women and men. It was one of Diddy's sex workers. So this guy goes, he decides he wants to go and shoot up Donald Trump's golf course there in Miami, right? The Doral golf course.
Yes.
So they got video of him. He's in there running around. He's shooting over at cops. He's shooting over his shoulder at these cops. He's sliding around on the slippery floor. I was like, hey, first they have that video. Then he says, okay, I want to talk, but I only want to talk to the U.S. Secret Service. He gives a 30-minute interview with the U.S. Secret Service where he gets into all this stuff. 2019, all this stuff about Cassie, all this stuff about sex trafficking, about drugs. This is the first, and he's telling it to the feds right there. They have to refer that. His case in 2025 still has no disposition. It's been ongoing for all these years. He's got to be an informant. He's got to be working for the feds. And because it's an open and shut case. He's on film shooting at cops. You know what I mean? And then, it's like as open and shut as you can get. I'll send you that video. And again, to another one, I have a question for you. What do you make of Allie Carter?
Allie Carter. Oh. The problem with Allie Carter is that a lot of these claims get so they're so fantastical that it's hard to get a grasp on it. But there's another woman that I can't remember her name. I think I know she's European, that also had these sort of trafficking and being put around these elite type people where they were abused. But it's hard to, because there's so much out there right now, it's hard for me to digest it. Like, I remember watching a video, I don't know if you've ever seen it, on the Hampstead kids, the girl and the boy.
Yeah, I interviewed those parents, the stepfather, Abe and Ella. I interviewed both of them. And after the interview, they totally fell apart. And that's a bizarre operation those two are running. I don't know what happened to those kids or anything happened to them, but those two parents are a mess.
And again, when I first saw it, I said, "Oh, this seems really authentic," because it's two little kids, and they're speaking in a way that, how are they going to, even if they're coached, they're kind of finishing each other's sentences, and it just seemed. And then when you go to really look into it, it's like you said, the whole thing falls apart. It's like a house of cards.
Yeah.
But I've seen Allie Carter's videos. I know that she predicted. Like she said, there was going to be a fire. There's going to be fires and things like that to get people's attention away, and that's look at California.
Well, how would she know that? But the thing is with her is she her initial claim to fame was that she was held prisoner underneath the Getty Museum with 100,000 kids under there that are being held. The guy that made that up is Stephen D. Kelly. He made up that story. This guy's a total crackpot, claiming to be CIA and NSA and all this stuff like that. But he was really a pornographer at the time. So She stole the story from him, and that's how she got her start. How people don't go track back to the origins of these people and find out what's going on. I don't know.
I had no idea of that. Zero. Oh my word!
I'll tell you.
So it's like a grift then.
Oh, absolutely. I don't know. You know what? Maybe something happened to her in some kind of way, but there's no way she was under the Getty. The whole Getty story is nonsense. That was totally made up by a guy who's bipolar. The guy has a lot of problems. You know. I'll send you that show too, man. I did a whole report on that, Stephen D. Kelly and the Getty story. And even he says he never.
So many things I'm out of the loop.
Yeah. Even he says he's never actually been down there and seen all this. He used his astral projection powers to go down there.
Yes, of course.
But
yes,
back to real stuff. We got Mike Parziale here from MJVictims.com, a serious advocate for the truth here and an advocate for abuse victims. So let's try and keep it a little bit serious, serious topics. Now, and all this, you says there's new accusers now. There's a new lawsuit or new accusers who got paid off. What's that?
This is a very complicated story. Okay. So what happened was Leaving Neverland came out in 2019. And when it first came out, there was a little bit of low pack. People were taking Michael Jackson's music off certain platforms and et cetera. The people that saw that documentary, that heard the testimony, a lot of them were shocked because it was so graphic. So, but the damage had been done. I mean, whatever was going to be done for that documentary was pretty much solidified. But what happened was, I want to say in 2020, there were 5 new accusers that came forward. And according to the reports and kind of the information they've been leaking out, it's all from one family. And the family is called the Casicos. Now, the Casicos are from New Jersey. Michael Jackson knew the oldest child when he was like 2. So he was with this family from when when the oldest were 2 all the way up to like in his 20s, to the youngest child. And all of them, these accusers, again, these according to reports from the Financial Times and a guy named Stacey Brown, but they were saying that they received all $2.8 million. They've all received $2.8 million for their life stories. I think it's called their life rights or whatever.
Right.
And they're not allowed. They weren't supposed to be able to discuss this, and they were supposed to go on like a goodwill campaign saying nice things about Michael Jackson and defending him. Well, that happened. There's a gentleman named Frank Cascio, and he was with Michael Jackson. He was the oldest child that Michael Jackson knew since 2, and he stayed with Michael Jackson all the way up until his late teens, early 20s. He knew a lot of the inner workings of that whole operation, and he, they really were more concerned about getting his, life rights more than anybody's, his life story. And what happened was that, so he started doing what they asked him to do, and then he stopped. He took down all of his social media. And after a while, his lawyer and him then sent another letter. Now, there's a little bit of a gray area. We don't know. We don't know when this particular request came. But they said, you know what? Do not give us the final payment. We're not doing just $2.8 million. There's so much information here. We want $213 million. So essentially 1/10 of the value of the estate. Because the rumor is that the estate kept on doubling down on trying to whitewash and reinvent his legacy. And it was, especially when the announcement of the documentary came out, them selling Michael Jackson's half of his catalog, and this estate was making money hand over fist. And the rumor is that the thought process was, wait a second here, you know what? You guys continue to do this. You're basically making us basically keep our mouths shut. So if you're going to do this, and I'm sure the lawyers of the state are making real good money, we want a bigger part of this pie, and we're not going to be silent unless we get, unless you guys consider this. And the sad thing about this is that there were 4 boys in this family and 1 girl. And it supposedly went down the whole line. So he started with the oldest, which is Frank, then went to Eddie, which is the next oldest, youngest. Then it went to the next one, Dominic Jr., and then went to the youngest, which is Aldo. And the thing is, we don't know if the female child was abused, but there are rumors that she might have seen things. So that's pretty sinister. That's really dark, again, where he just went from one child to the next, to the next, to the next. And Aldo was all the way around the 2005 trial. He was still hanging out with Michael Jackson. And they believe that the youngest child was the one that kind of sort of got this all going, because he had had a revelation after seeing Leaving Neverland, and that kind of sparked this. Again, these are reports; these are unsubstantiated, but this is the intel I'm getting.
You don't wonder about the parents, sad. The parents, because I've heard all these names through Diane Diamond. Okay, I don't know. I can picture it. It was some kind of documentary or TV program, and Diane Diamond's voice mentioning these names, the Casios, the Amens. But you have to wonder, where were the parents in all this? If every kid in your family is being targeted by someone who is on criminal charges,
That's they're going to have to answer that.
Yeah.
I mean, the reality is when the 93 allegations hit, the law enforcement warned the Casios, hey, look, you need to understand this. These are serious allegations. And they said, no, we trust him. We trust him with our sons. He would never do this. And there's one story that's really disturbing at the height of these allegations, when this is all over the news, that Michael Jackson went on they went overseas. I forget where they were, but it was Frank and Eddie and Dominic Sr., the father. And Dominic Sr. said, oh, this is right. They were trying to console him because he was so down about the allegations. And he was, at that point, I think, kind of trying not to come back to the States. So he was kind of hanging out in Europe. So they went there, and finally, Dominic Sr., after being there several weeks, said, look, I have to go back to Jersey. I have a business I have to run. I can't stay here anymore. And Michael Jackson convinced him to leave his 2 young children with him to help console him. And he did. So that's not an easy thing to explain away, where you say, this idea, I trust him empirically. No, you can't.
But even if you can't, I don't care who you trust. I don't want to give my kid away for a couple of months or whatever. I like hanging out with my kid. I love my kids. Why would I want to? Let someone go live with someone else. I want to teach them every night. I want them to learn new things from me, my experiences and stuff.
Yes.
Insane.
And the thing was, they thought almost like Michael Jackson as another child in their minds, that he was another son or something. And they got caught up in that whole whirlwind where it was like, oh my word, I've been so subjected to all these awful things, and you're my family. And because at that point he was with them for years, even in 1993. So they knew him, they trusted him, and if these allegations are what they are, they essentially he used them and essentially have these brothers kind of go through God knows what, and these parents were thinking, oh, nothing ever happened.
Didn't some of these brothers go to work for him too? Didn't some of these brothers go to work for him? Yeah. See, they were employed by him later on too as they got older. Yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
Frank and Eddie did. And Frank knows a lot of the inner workings to what was happening at Neverland. He knows a lot of it. I did a video. We were talking about that series, Nocturnal Admissions. I did. The last video I did was about how it's a very creepy video. The beginning of it shows this it's unidentified child, but there's 2. Michael Jackson's he's in Germany, and he's getting out of a limousine. Now, before the limousine gets there, there's 2 unidentified little boys kind of standing off to the side. All of a sudden, the limousine pulls up. Michael Jackson gets out, starts walking down like it's a parade, waving to people. There are there's like women jumping, trying to get a hold of him, blah, blah, blah. He's ready to go into the hotel. All of a sudden, he turns around, and those two little boys are there. He stops everything, waves them over, picks the one that he likes, and grabs him by the arm and walks into the hotel with them. And I think the person that brought those children to him might have been Frank Cassio. I could be wrong on that, but what it kind of looked like. But
I'm recalling,
he goes into the hotel.
I'm remembering now, in the back of the limousine or nearby the limousine, one of Michael Jackson's really creeped out, sleazy friends pointing at those kids and waving them over. You know, like there was nothing innocent about the way this guy was waving them over. Okay.
It was really weird, and it was like, well, what did they do? It was just really strange, and the fact that they go into this hotel, and what happens is that you don't. When I kind of go through each little part in this short video, and I said, where is he? Where's his parents? Where is his kid? Yeah. All of a sudden, there's a handler that was handling the kind of doing all the stuff, bringing in posters and stuff. He goes into it's chaos. The little kid looks up to him and he goes, go, go, go. And he pushes him into the elevator with Michael Jackson and a whole bunch of security. And then this kid has no idea where he's at, what's going on. And they just stick him in the elevator. It's bizarre. It's really, really strange.
And you have that video on your YouTube channel?
Yeah. Yeah. It's on the series, Nocturnal Admissions. It's on the last episode we did. It's the beginning of the video. There's other things we went over. One of the more telling things, by the way, in that we went over was a quote that he made in 1978 when he was going to turn 18. I'm sorry, 19, I forget what he was about to turn 21, whatever that year is. He gave an interview, and they asked him, he was somewhere in India, and they asked him about that. And he says, you know what? It's really unique. He goes, it's really strange how we have different customs than they do. You know, you could have a man, a 35-year-old man, and he can marry a little girl, and they don't see anything wrong with that. It's weird that, they say that we're wrong and we say that they're wrong. He goes, but, it does make you think. That's a quote by him. And then the other quote that he gave in that same year was they asked him about him being 21 and now you're a man. He goes, well, there's a real weird thing about, becoming a man at 21. He goes, some people at 21 think themselves as a child, and some 5-year-olds could be men. It could actually be grown men. So his mindset's right there. He's telling you, but nobody was listening.
Yeah, well, after I saw that clip of Oprah Winfrey there in his movie theater with the bed for the little children to come in and lie on the bed, and when I saw that, I said, what? There's nothing suspicious about that. Give me a break. All right. Reporter Stacey Brown, what's his story?
So Stacey Brown he's been covering the Michael Jackson beat. He's been covering Michael Jackson for years and years. He's supposedly a family friend. A lot of times we get asked about the inner workings of the Jacksons and, what happened, what was going on with the Jackson family and Michael Jackson and the brothers and sisters. But he's always taken a stance that he felt that Michael Jackson did abuse children, and more than likely this did happen. And so he was one of those. But what's strange is we were talking about these new accusers was that he came out, he was given an exclusive interview from attorney John Branca, who's running the estate. And this is a very powerful attorney in L.A. He gave him an exclusive on these accusers. And the article that he put out, first of all, was shocking because it literally seemed like a love letter to John Branca. He was essentially talking about how he took the estate that was worth almost nothing and he rebuilt it, and he took an estate that was literally $500 million in debt, brought it to $2 billion, and how he signed the deals for Cirque du Soleil, and how he helped us get the catalog sold, and how he now got the Michael Jackson documentary, and all this money-making things, and how wonderful, what a great lawyer he is to get this all done. And then mixed in to that love letter is talking about these new accusers and basically describing this as an extortion attempt. Because what happened was that the estate filed a claim against these accusers with the federal government, saying this was extortion. This is all done through lawyers, by the way. That's going to be hard to kind of grasp. That's just extortion. But anyways, that was the angle he put on it. The other thing he did, which was shocking to me, knowing his thought process, I still follow Stacey Brown, but it just didn't make any sense to me, was that he did a live stream. And then what he did was he basically almost said their names, but gave you almost basically all the information you need to know who it was. So these accusers weren't named, and they were not supposed to be named. But yet the person that's kind of telling this story, the person that's kind of presenting this story, is now essentially outing the victims. I went nuts when I saw this. And I can't tell you how many nasty things I sent to Stacey Brown, because I'm like, how could you do this?
Yeah.
These are you don't know if this is not true or false or fake or whatever, and you believe Michael Jackson probably abused her. Why would you carry water for the head of the MJ estate and essentially out these men? And in his live stream, he talks about how, well, the fans, when they kind of know about this and who knows what's going to happen to him, almost like trying to feed this to get, sort of the fans rallied and kind of going after these accusers. It's crazy. Absolutely crazy.
But I'm not surprised, man. Like I mentioned on the show several times, in Hollywood, the showbiz, they have these guys, man, these professional stalkers that just will drive you nuts, man, and just wear you down. And I've dealt with it with one of these guys who worked for an estate of a famous producer that I mentioned on the show a few times, and they'll just wear you down, man, and they are a serious threat too, and they seem to get away with it.
It's really sad. I mean, and what's sad is that you're literally now. The other thing I think that goes with this is that the estate now is there's again reports that they're looking to go into arbitration for this, that settlement that had happened, and now they're kind of putting a no-go on it. And the thing is the thought process is that this might have been kind of done on purpose, that they kind of let him kind of almost give their names. So it can almost seem like they divulge the identities of these people. Yeah. So then maybe they can get in and renegotiate. They say, yeah, we kind of broke it, so let's go back in. Maybe we didn't give you enough money, but we got to make sure that when this happens, you definitely don't say anything. Da, da, da. It seems like the estate in many ways knows, again, and if you're going to ask for $213 million, that's a pretty bold move.
It's cheaper to kill you. It's cheaper to kill you.
Yes, it is. But you would think that a lawyer would be, again, everyone thinks that these lawyers, whatever you ask for, they'll ask. No, a lot of times they're not going to go back into a negotiation or go back into a settlement that was almost basically, done, and kind of bring that back up unless they say, you know what, guys, yeah, we have a lot of damning evidence here, and we really need to think about this. It just, something does not seem right with this whole thing. And the fact that there's been radio silence on this 5 new accusers with 5 multi-million-dollar settlements, and there's hardly any news on this. Almost none. There's like 4 articles.
Oh, yeah. When you sent me
especially
these notes,
with Diddy.
When you sent me these notes, I had no idea what we were talking about.
And most people don't. And you would think with Diddy, what's going on with Diddy right now, with that blowing up, you would think, oh, we're talking about child trafficking, we're talking about all these awful things. You would think that this would make some pretty big waves, especially with the documentary coming out and all these other things that are going to be happening. The channel that did the Michael Jackson Leaving Neverland was Channel 4. That was the people that kind of gave the green light to that in HBO. They're coming out with a new documentary about the trial, and you're going to be hearing from people you never heard from in the 2005 trial, talking about what went on there. So there's so much you would think, but nothing. I can't tell you how many times I tell people this, and I have no idea. I never heard this. This can't be true.
Oh, wait, real quick, you reminded me of something. I got something I bet you never heard of. Okay, and I got this from the Paul Baresi, the private investigator for Michael Jackson, is that the Menendez brothers, when they were little kids, would go visit Netherland.
Oh, no.
Yeah, man.
Oh,
no one talks about that.
They did. Yeah. Oh, my word.
Yep. Their father was friends with the architect that did work at Netherland, and that's how they got to go visit Neverland.
And so I'm assuming that the father must have also known Michael Jackson.
Well, yeah, and his whole story with Menudo, too. So
that's what I'm saying.
Birds of a feather, yeah.
You're getting these, you're getting that sort of very parallel stories.
Yeah.
And the other person Michael Jackson knew was, I can't think of his name, is so weird, but he was a huge producer of pop idols in Japan, if I'm correct. Either Japan or Korea. And huge stories about him running, abusing all the talent, all the underage talent. And he did a lot of the K-pop. They called it K-pop. Maybe it was Korean.
I hear about K-pop. I have no idea what it is. Okay.
It's basically... young, people that, groups like Menudo. It's just a different, it's in Korea or Japan or one of those. But he was very friendly with that guy as well. So it almost seems like these people traveled in the same circles, to put it that way.
It seems to be. So now you mentioned here, too, that John Branca, who, by the way, was Michael Jackson's best man. Michael Jackson was his best man at the wedding. He made some revealing statements on these new accusers. Was that covered already?
Yeah. There's one statement that comes out that is, I don't know how anyone else can take this. He writes, I'm going to quote this essentially verbatim. He writes, "We survived leaving Neverland, but I'm not sure with these additional allegations we could have." His lawyers told him, you have no choice. Branca's lawyers told him, that's why you're advising him, you have no choice. If these people come forward and make these allegations, then Michael is over, his legacy over, the business is done. That's a pretty bold statement to make. Where you're saying, if these guys come forward, it's over. Game over, it's done. And it says to me that they have probably something very big, and they probably have the receipts, and they probably have stuff to back up what they're saying. And it wouldn't surprise me if they know that how this whole operation had gone down, because we talked about this before. Michael Jackson's own private investigator, Anthony Pellicano, Mr. C4 Explosives in his safe, he said that Michael Jackson did far darker things than molest boys. And
also too,
how dark these things go.
He had wiretapping equipment that you didn't have to attach any equipment onto the line. You could just do it remotely from his office. He could just dial somebody's number and listen to their phone calls.
And he also had, when that whole thing in '93 was going on, he instructed, and this is in testimony, he instructed a limousine driver to go to Michael Jackson's Century, it's called Century City, and he had a condo there, pick up a briefcase and some other things, and rush it right to his home, because they knew the raid was imminent.
Oh, really?
So
I hadn't heard that. Yeah.
Yes, and that's something that's on record. So I wonder what's in that briefcase, and I'm sure Anthony Pellicano knew a lot. And it's to me, there's so much there that it's the other thing I heard too, and again, I'm taking this. I want to make sure people know this. I'm taking this with a grain of salt because it's the first I ever heard of it, and I know that NT lawyer who does Crazy Days and Nights is, you never know what he's saying, but he was talking about he did a Michael Jackson week, and something about how they found bodies on the estate that they found. They had dug up. They were doing some survey or something on the estate grounds, and they had to, dig some stuff up, and they found a couple of bodies, and also that there was Michael Jackson had an underground studio that was underneath Neverland. So I haven't really got a chance to kind of really dig into that, but I find that rather, who knows.
Yeah, I've had him on the show a few times. I think he's about 80, 90% accurate, He mentioned a couple of things I was personally involved in that I knew was inaccurate, but otherwise we seem to agree on mostly most stuff,
So you never know.
Yeah, listen,
but I never heard that before.
Well, Ted Rubenstein said to me once, I said, what do you think of so-and-so? He goes, he's right half the time, just like everybody else. We can't be right 100% of the time. Well, we're all wrong half the time. It's just that some people admit it and some people don't. So, Vincent,
very true.
Yeah, Vincent Amen, and what is he inferring this may be about?
He's very interesting person. I know you had Diane Diamond on several times, and Diane Diamond basically did a new chapter in her book discussing this. Now, Vincent Amen was a unindicted co-conspirator in the 2003 investigation, and essentially what they said was Vincent Amen, his role was essentially to kind of take the Arvizo family and bring them to different places and kind of keep them out of sight so that the press didn't get to them, and there was rumors about them maybe shipping the Arvizos off to Brazil and kind of hiding them, and also to kind of help clean up maybe some of the messes. And but the other thing is Vincent Amen was friends with Frank Cascio and supposedly still is. And he's been putting a lot of things on his social media. He has a web page that kind of goes over certain things. He shows an interesting, there's a magazine where there's like videos circled, and Michael Jackson was wanting him to order these like, not nature videos, but these naturalist videos with people who I guess sunbathe in the nude or whatever, these nudist camps. And all these videos were pertaining to like children, and that he was circling these to, or families or whatever to get sent to Michael. But what he is, when I can gather, he's talking about how Frank, he's saying that Frank was abused, that he's beginning to deal with this. He's talking about how Aldo was also abused, which is the youngest, and how he's dealing with it. But he's also, and what I can see in his tweets or his X posts, is that this might be tied to a trafficking organization, that there was some possible trafficking going on in that whole Neverland ranch, and he might have some information on that. But the reality is the Cassicos are from New Jersey. He was from New Jersey. He knows that family, and he's after he spoke with Diane Diamond, he has been very critical of Michael Jackson and believes that Michael Jackson probably abused these accusers, and that there was an operation that helped to get Michael Jackson children. So, there was a way that kind of a setup there.
I believe that. And I tell you something, as I recall this Diane Diamond TV show, I recall all these names you're mentioning here, the Amens and the Cassios and these guys, and they just heard description of them and the video they had of them, just their names and their little operation are stuck in my mind all these years. So, which means something to me. So what is Omar Body? What is his story and his cryptic Twitter posts, tweets, they call them?
It's strange because just he made really one very cryptic post, and it was him standing on a box or something, and it was something, I'm paraphrasing here, the stories that he holds. So it was him pictured as a child, and it was just literally the line was the story that he holds, meaning stories he could tell but he doesn't tell. And I kind of responded to it, and it wasn't blocked, wasn't, there was no like correspondence like, hey, this isn't right. I said, my response essentially was that, Michael Jackson's real legacy, and I put pictures of the accusers, the current accusers. And I said, essentially inferring, could it be about this? And nothing was blocked, taken down. And then, of course, a lot of people were like, that post you're posting, a lot of people can take it the wrong way, trying to kind of like keep it, stifled. But he didn't give them anything like, no, this has nothing to do with that. He kind of just left it there. And now, to talk about Omar Bardi, it's a very interesting story. Omar, his family, essentially, he was a mini Michael Jackson. He was a child dancer, and kind of, he would hang out and dress like Michael Jackson and kind of, kind of like Wade Robson, do some dance moves. And so Michael Jackson, he was found out about him and essentially ingratiated himself to Omar. Omar, I think, and they became friends. But what was weird is okay, he becomes friends with the child. Now, he lived in Norway. He moves the whole family to Neverland. His mother, his father, his sister, and Omar. Okay? Omar then resides at the Neverland Ranch in the main house, and then the mother and father and the sister basically take over, are given a guest suite, and he stays with Michael Jackson. He almost basically, he's calling Michael Jackson like he calls him his, dad and sort of thing, even though he has a father that's at Neverland, and he ends up spending time in Michael Jackson's bedroom in his bed. So and when the 2003 allegations had come up, he was questioned by someone in law enforcement. They asked him about pornography in Michael Jackson's bedroom, and supposedly he kind of stopped and stammered and couldn't answer the question. And the thought is that he probably has seen a lot of things go on. He might have been a victim. He was interviewed in a magazine, in I want to say a Norwegian magazine that was translated to English. And he was asked about Michael Jackson in these situations. And one of the things he said was that, Michael Jackson sees a lot of things differently. A lot of things that seem natural to him wouldn't seem natural to other people when they were asking about these sleeping arrangements and the allegations. That tells me a great deal. And I think that Omar is, because he's probably, more than likely, I believe he was friends with Frank, because Frank and them were around, they were basically there at the same time. And he probably, found out about these allegations, and maybe now is essentially realizing, this can't go on forever. We can't continually cover up for Michael Jackson's behavior, and what Michael Jackson did best was he convinced these boys and families that he was the victim. He's the one that needs protection. He's the one that is going through all this horrible press and tabloids, and that they need to rally around him, and that people just don't understand him. And people got a, sort of a relationship with him, and also got benefits. They got, basically got to be in that whole orbit. And then eventually now that orbit is no longer around and it's wearing thin. And I think people are realizing, hey, wait a second. We need to maybe start talking about the real legacy, especially with this documentary that's coming out that might whitewash this. And the other thing with Omar is he's basically the godfather to Michael Jackson's three children. There's pictures of Michael Jackson, Omar, and his three children, and they almost look like a couple with three little kids. I mean, it's the most bizarre thing, but he became their godfather, and what a way to keep somebody quiet, by literally tying them to the family to the point where you're like, this happened to me, but how am I going to betray these three, children that I've now kind of, they're almost like brothers and sisters. How do I do this? It's a perfect way of silencing him, and so that's another thing that I've been seeing, and of course they're all going after him. As soon as he even puts out anything, they just attack him.
We're talking to Mike Parziale. You can find him at mjvictims.com, which links goes to his Facebook page, but also check out his YouTube, mjvictims.com on YouTube, and this series he's doing, the Nocturnal Admissions. So now we got about 5 minutes left, Mike. Your comments on some of the ex-personalities you've been calling out?
It's infuriating sometimes, and the reason is I'm going to bring up one person. Now I can't remember, Brian Mata. Now Ryan has nothing to do with Michael Jackson, in case I want to stipulate this, but he's breaking stories on child trafficking in Guatemala. So he has really good information. He's been doing, a lot of the groundwork, going there, talking to people, and what he's finding is that that there is a district attorney or an attorney there that's trying to break this wide open as well. So what happened was there is a couple of essentially charities that are working in Guatemala. I want to say Save Children, or I forget what the charities are, but and what they're doing is they're acting as conduits to get these children into trafficking situations. And the Guatemalan authorities have gone in, they have raided them, they have found information that shows this, and the attorney, the general attorney there, is trying to expose it. But the way it works is that the president and this attorney, I'm trying to think, what's it? General attorney? I'm not DA. I'm trying to think.
Attorney General?
Attorney General. Yeah. Attorney General. Thank you. Yes. Attorney General, the way they set this up is that they have elections kind of, they get elected 4 years, but the Attorney General is kind of offset. So the person that's in charge, the president, cannot fire the Attorney General.
Right.
So
the Attorney General's office is supposed to be independent from the president or the Congress, or it's an independent prosecutor. It's supposed to be.
Yes. And so what has happened is that they have there's an election that's coming up that they had for a new president that's willing to change the law so they can fire the Attorney General. So they found out that the election is fraudulent because it's all handwritten ballots, and they're tracked almost immediately. So it's tracked both by handwritten ballots and electronically. So you can kind of see where people are almost immediately, and it doesn't add up. So, of course, our wonderful country decides to get involved and decides to say, no, it was a legitimate election, and the people that supported the Attorney General, the people that want this to break open, they have put on restrictions now in the United States on all those people. They can't come to the United States. Their passports are null and void because they don't essentially want to influence this election. But the question is why? So he's done a great amount of work on this, and he's talking about all these, exposing these child trafficking networks and how big they are, and the fact that all these Guatemalan children, it's like over 100,000 Guatemalan children that have gone missing. They don't know where they are. They can't track them. And this Attorney General's trying to figure this out. So I'm like, what a great, someone's actually doing the hard work. They're taking it, respectfully. And then I go on his feed, and he's talking about how, well, there was a story about this gay couple, these two men that adopted two little boys and then ended up abusing them, pimping them out, da-da-da-da-da-da. So he talks about it. Oh, well, it's all because of the LGBTQ community. They're all behind this, and we can't allow them to adopt children and da-da-da. And then he talks about, obviously, he talks about how it's people of the Jewish faith that are creating this problem. I'm thinking to myself, you have such amazing information, you getting listened to, and now you just ruined it. No one's going to take you seriously. You're going to be speaking into an echo chamber. You have all this great things that you could actually be doing to educating people correctly, explaining to them how grooming works, explaining to them how it has nothing to do with if you're gay, you're straight, you're bi, whatever. That's not important. What's important is their behavior. You watch a person's behavior. And if they're around children and they are not acting correctly, or they're preying on them, that's what you focus on. All the rest of it doesn't mean a whole lot of nothing. But what he's doing is he just destroyed it. And a lot of what happens, these people that supposedly care about this topic, what they do is they use it to get attention and to it becomes about them. It doesn't become about the cause anymore.
But Mike, also too,
so many commentators.
If you got someone like that who is causing trouble for the traffickers, and they can have some blackmail dirt on him, or they can pay him off to discredit himself. That's another tactic out there too.
Yes.
Yeah, to destroy the opposition. But Mike Parziale, we are out of time, my friend.
Okay.
You got to come back more often, okay? Man, you got to promise me that.
Sure. Definitely.
Mike Parziale, MJVictims.com. Check out his YouTube channel, MJ Victims, and also to his series, Nocturnal Admissions. Mike, thank you so much, man.
Thank you.
Good night, bro.